Hi, well, this is Sue Fleckenstein from Createful Journals, and welcome to the Zoom call. And today I have the pleasure of having Di Heuser on a call with us, and she's from PR Planners and has recently released a great course called Digital Paper Alchemy. And she's here to give us an overview of the course and answer any questions that you may have about whether or not this is something that you should add to your business or not. So did you want to start off then, Di, by just giving us like a quick overview of what the course is, what people can expect?
Sure. So first of all, can I just correct your pronunciation of my surname?
Sorry.
Nobody gets it right. It's not Heuser, it's Heuser. Yeah, no, so I'm just teasing you. Nobody gets it right unless they're told how to pronounce it.
Oh,
yeah, so I must admit, it was one of the most fun courses I've ever put together. It came about literally because I was being nagged in the group and in private messages via emails about, how do I create the papers and can I teach people how to do it? So that's how the course actually came about. It literally has been one of the most fun courses I've ever put together because it's something that I love. So I come from a digital scrapbooking background where in 2007, when we had nothing but like a 56K dial-up, I was designing digital scrapbooks for a store in the US, and it took forever to upload the stuff because, of course, it's graphic intensive. But there were two South African designers that were doing very well as well, and Kim is one I often talk about, took me under her wing and taught me everything she knows. And I mean, I'm so grateful for her because if it wasn't for her, I would never have been able to get into the industry. But when the digital scrapbooking market kind of plummeted, because after about 2014 trends, it plummeted in terms of searching and people doing that kind of thing, because it was a novelty before that. So then obviously we moved into journals and planners and KDP, and then ultimately it morphed into the PLR planners business.
Oh yeah, I mean, I haven't gone through the whole course yet, but so far what I've seen is really good. Yeah. Okay.
So I think the advantage of it, and this is one of the reasons, and I was talking to Carmen Chan about it the other day, because when you teach somebody else to do something, they don't need you anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the goal. Is to teach somebody how to do it themselves so they don't have to rely on other people. And I think if people take the course seriously, so the problem is people looking saying, well, I don't want digital papers, but it's the spin-off stuff that you can do with them and the skills that you learn from doing this that you can then filter out into your other types of businesses or other products and things like that. So for me, that was really important that people understand that it's more than about just creating the digital papers. It's about learning to use your software that you've got and enhance your skills.
Absolutely. I mean, and actually, that's one of the questions I got by email was somebody was saying about, it's digital papers, but when you go to Creative Fabrica or, any of these other sites, there's even on Etsy, you'll see there's so many for sale. So how are they going to, make theirs unique and make theirs be the ones that people want to buy? So that's a couple of questions that I've got from a couple of people.
Well, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? I mean, even I think my papers are pretty good, but unless people are buying them, then it's not happening. So it's like the journal and planner business. You kind of have to make a decision, and I do cover this in the one video about pricing, is when you're trying to get market exposure, do you go for the very low price, like the Creative Fabrica pricing, or do you go for the creative market pricing, which is slightly more expensive and a bit more what they consider upmarket? So the challenge is, I've started this new store where I'm doing a lot of this type of thing, and I'm obviously not giving that new brand away yet because we're running some case studies on it. But even so, it's a slow start. It hasn't taken off and had 100 sales. It's only had 15 sales in the last month. And that's with paid advertising and barely touching on Pinterest. I'm still needing to get my Pinterest stuff up. So the bottom line is you need to look at it and say, okay, well, yes, you're going to create digital papers, and yes, you can sell the digital papers, but you can also create other stuff with it. And the thing about creating your own papers is that nobody else is going to have something similar.
Yeah.
So when I go into some of the other products that we can sell it, I mean, I did an example where I put one of my papers onto a mug and it looked stunning. You know, it looked, not saying that my product was stunning, but it just looked really nice. So if you've got a piece of paper that you've designed and nobody else has got, nobody else is going to be able to sell a mug that looks like that. And I think that's the key element is you will have unique products to you that no one else can sell, unless you sell them for commercial use, of course. But the bottom line, because you've created it yourself, you will stand out. So in the beginning, I used to buy a lot of stuff from Creative Market and use that initially. And then I decided to get back into the creating of papers. And now I don't have to spend the money. So one, I'm saving money. And two, I've got products that nobody else has got at all. And I think that's going to be the differentiation, you know. I don't know if that's answered the question.
No, absolutely. I mean, and that's the whole thing. You created something that somebody else hasn't got, and you can resell them if you want to with commercial rights. If not, just use them for yourself for your other products as well. So when you mentioned spin-offs, I mean, okay, you mentioned about the mug, but how else? Once we've created the digital papers, like how else can people use them then? Like, what would you suggest?
Well, I've given a list. I think it was about 100 different products in a PDF that you can do it. But let me give you some examples. I mean, you could take this and you could put it on a T-shirt. So in the video, I show a couple of ladies' T-shirts and kid T-shirts, how you can use them as sublimation products. Now, a few questions that people ask is, what about the DPI? If we're doing a paper at 30 inches, or not 30 inches, 12 inches by 12 inches, that may be too small. So if you want to do a towel, for instance, you might have to design the paper at 24 inches or 36 inches, but still at 300 dpi. Because the bigger the product that you're putting it onto, the lower the resolution goes. And in the video that I go through it, you'll see the difference between putting it on a mug and putting it on a t-shirt, the resolution dropped. But that's easy enough to fix up just by creating the papers at a bigger size, yeah. So I tested it on some pillowcases, on some towels. I mean, it worked on pretty much anything I tested, even shoes. So any POD product, I know, they look amazing. They really look pretty. So any POD product that takes a graphic, you can take those papers and use them. It's not like you're doing a single sort of graphic image, like a little bit of clip art or something. You would use those for something different, but any fabric or so I use Guten as well, that does curtains and bed linen and pillowcases. And obviously I've had to design them at a much bigger size, but the principles behind it are identical. And you could put together a set of designs for a set of bedding that looks absolutely rock bottom, just stunning, and no one else will have that.
And that's
so
amazing.
Those are some
Yes,
the obvious products are like books covers, but that's so blasé. We know we can use those for book covers,
Exactly. It's those other things, like thinking a little differently, thinking away just from journals and planners and stuff. So no, that's some great ideas. All right. So anyway, so let's open.
Sorry. So one thing. Let me ask you just to say one thing. So one thing I have picked up is that a lot of this new store that I've got them in the 12 by 12 inch papers. I've had several people email me and ask them for in 8.5 by 11. So I think I need to add that to the training. Also create them, or take the ones you've already created and convert them to 8.5 by 11. Because not everybody's got 12 by 12 printers.
Yes.
So they may only have an 8.5 by 11 printer, so they would want to print the papers out there. And not everybody knows that, you could take a graphics program and stretch that image to fit across an 8.5 by 11. So creating A4 or 8.5 by 11 pages is also really good.
Yes, I mean, that's what somebody was asking me too about how do we convert them to 8.5 by 11? Because sometimes when you try it, the design just gets distorted, or you have to pull it so big that instead of looking nice and small, now your design is huge because to fit the paper. So if you go over that in the course,
Yes, and you're
that's
missing the
great.
borders. So I would say, you know, do some designs as 12 by 12 and then do some designs as 8.5 by 11.
Yeah.
The principle is identical.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you can change it to A4 too if you want to, you know, for the European market as well. Yeah. So Kate's asking, are the papers that we create, are they called like seamless? Because there's different types of papers. So are these seamless papers then?
No, so, well, I do go through how to create seamless patterns, but in the beginning, most of the papers that I create are not seamless. You can create seamless patterns, and I've done that often. And there's a whole video on creating seamless patterns. So I would do a combination of both, depending on what I feel like, you know, and depending on what I want in the particular pack and the theme that I'm going for. But so the answer is yes and no. You can create seamless and you can create them without being seamless. Obviously, if you're going for fabrics and things like that, it might not be a bad idea to create seamless patterns, because then you can scale them up.
Yeah.
But again, that's up to you and how you want to create them and what you want to use them for.
Okay. No, that's really helpful. All right, so let's open up. If you have a question, you can either put it in the chat box, or if you can unmute, if you want to unmute yourself and ask that way, you can. So, you know, like take advantage of the time now. So, you know, if you've got some questions about the course, whether you should pick it up or not, now's the time to ask. No questions? Oh, okay.
Is anybody hearing you?
As far as I know, yeah. Unless you're not hearing me for some reason.
Has anybody got any questions?
Yeah, this is come and ask your question time. Or if you have any like design questions.
They've all dashed off to the news too, and they're just waiting for the replay.
Okay. Oh, okay. So if you're not sure where the chat feature is, go to the bottom, and then it's a little like a speech cloud which says chat on it. So you just click on that and it will open up in the panel on the side, and then you can just type in your question, or if not, if you want to unmute yourself and ask that way, feel free to do it that way. All right, because that will help.
That would help. Okay, there's a message.
So can these digital papers?
Hi.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay, so let's see. Marilyn says it's so overwhelming. I'm taking so many of Di's classes, so I know they're good. Just trying to figure out how to do this. Okay, so Marilyn, that is a problem we all face. We've all got a million projects and ideas in our minds, and I mean, if I had to show you my to-do list, it's exhausting. But you literally have to make a decision. Okay, I'm going to focus on the one thing, and when it's done, I'll move on to the next. There is no other way of doing it. So just pick one that looks like the most fun and start with that. Gail says, can these digital papers be used on any product, purity product? Yeah, pretty much. So I even tried it on embroidery. That didn't work because I think with the embroidery products, you actually have to a proper embroidery cut file. And also embroidery products tend to be sort of like logo orientated or clip art. So the papers wouldn't really work on that. But there was very little that I couldn't use it on when I was going through the testing. And how much time will it take to go through the training videos? So the timing of the videos is between 5 and 10 minutes each, but it's more about the case of you watch the video and then you go practice. Yeah. So I would say if you can spend an hour a day doing one video a day and practicing and coming up with the results, that will get you going fairly quickly. And I mean, I know there's quite a few videos, but by the time you've done video 1 and 2, you've already got papers, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question, Laurie?
Yeah, because that's was one aspect that I liked of the videos that I've gone through is like you say, now go off and create your pack of 5 designs and this and that, and go get the color swatch, go get this. So you go in bit by bit, and then it's very easy to go back and watch it again because they're not long videos. So that was really something that I found helpful as well.
I'm glad, yeah. Gail, did I answer your question?
No.
There's a lag. Sue, do you have any other questions that other people? The mind is swoon.
No, my main, I said the main ones that I got from the emails were people worrying about competition, how is my store, if I put them on Etsy, how am I going to get the traffic? How am I going to make mine different? And then about the 8.5 by 11, I had 2 people email ask me about, because I find that myself, I find that people want the 8.5 by 11s almost more than they want the 12 by 12s.
Correct, yes. So I've actually got my VA this morning based on that, taking all of those 12 by 12s and converting them into 8.5 by 11s, because for that very reason, and it's something I should have thought of, but it's because of my digital scrapbooking background. You don't think like that, in terms of most people don't have those kind of printers. And when I was selling the digital papers, they were using it in a program like Photoshop. So they didn't need to print them out. But of course, it's a very real thing. Most people don't have a big printer like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and so to come back to the thing of competition, there is competition in everything.
Yeah.
In whatever we do. I mean, any niche that you go into, there's competition. And I think you just need to decide, what is it that you enjoy doing? Give it a try. If you don't try, you're never going to know. And I think I was talking to a lady in our group who has an Etsy store, but she's not really done much with it because she's concerned that people won't like her designs. The only way you're going to find out if people like your designs is if you put them up for sale and promote them and see what happens. But I think given the way I've structured this course, it's going to be relatively easy and I've seen some papers that people have created. They're beautiful. And these people are not designers. They're really coming up with some really pretty stuff just because of the techniques that we teach in the training course, because you don't need to be creative. You're going to be using other resources to mix and match and create something of your own. So from the competition perspective, it's a difficult one, but I suggest just get up and do it and try it. See what happens.
Yeah, exactly. Like with anything, if you try, and then like you said, you might find a certain design sells for you, or you might find they don't, and then you can just fine tune things as you go. And
something else that I'm doing at the moment is I'm testing out selling the physical papers themselves. Enough, I've just been speaking to a printer in the UK. My daughter's going to get some samples from them, and then we're going to see if we can physically go into the gift shops and things like that and say, here's a pack of scrapbook papers. Would you like to try and sell it? Or we sell them physically from Etsy. So what happens is people don't buy a digital file, they actually buy the printed papers from you. Now, you guys in the US and the UK and Canada are so lucky because you've got printers right there and then. We don't have printers yet. Well, we could find printers, but the problem is for me to ship it from here to overseas takes 6 months because we've just got the most shocking delivery system. And it's also very expensive if you use the couriers. So you could take your designs and physically print them out on paper and go and sell them at craft stores or take them into gift shops, and say, here's a paper pack. Would you be interested in selling it to your customers? And you can print it on normal printer paper, or you can even print it on 150 GSM or 210 GSM paper and see where it goes from there. So that's just another idea.
Oh yeah, that's great. And I know here we have, well, okay, there's restrictions right now, but a lot of people have like craft sales fairs. Even people have their own garage sales at the end of your street, and you could put your papers out there and just see what happens. Even schools, if you make papers for school, kids, and then go to the schools and see if they're willing to, to buy some for the craft projects for the kids. I mean, they're all great ideas.
What?
Oh, yeah, Gail's.
So Gail says Photoshop a must. No, you can use Affinity Designer. And I also know, I think it was Maureen who's put out a training course on using Photopea or something. In marketing, they say competition is good. That means there's a market for the product. Quite right. Quite right. And the more competition there is, the bigger the market, because there's more market awareness. That's a very solid principle in business. If you've got a lot of competition, you've got a bigger market.
Yeah.
What are people usually printing these papers for? Okay, so people do them for a number of reasons. They create junk journals, they do physical scrapbooking with them, they use them for craft projects, whatever. There's an unlimited amount of reasons why people will print them out. But for the most, people use them for junk journals and for scrapbooking, physical scrapbooking. Okay, how can you use other commercial use items as limits to make? Okay, so here's the interesting thing. There are some commercial use items, and I cover this in the training course. There's a specific thing about making use of other commercial use items. Let's take, for an example, some of the textures that I've shown you in the training course. I bought those from Kim as an example. She gives a commercial use license on them. That means I cannot sell the texture as it stands, but I can take the texture, change the blend mode, and put it onto a pattern or a piece of paper that I've created, and then I can sell that as a commercial use item. So it depends on what commercial use rights these the person that you bought the pack of stuff from gives you. So let's take a graphics pack that you're going to say go buy from Creative Market with a commercial use license. In one of the papers, I used a bunch of flowers, and I mixed and merged a couple of elements, and then I embedded it into the paper. Now, that piece of paper I can sell for commercial use, just as long as you're not selling the individual elements and you're providing them with a flattened JPEG file. That's probably most of the commercial use rights issues that you would get away with. Not get away with, that is allowed.
So when you say to embed it now, so if we're in Photoshop, so if we merge the layers, is that embedding the elements into the design?
You flatten the layers into a single file, into a single layer in JPEG, or PNG, or whichever,
Okay. And I think Melody, she was asking as well, would I consider offering a 3 payment option as well?
Yes, if you ask me nicely, email me, see. Don't spread it around. Yeah, so Jenny makes a really valid point, and I have come across it. She says she likes the idea of the digital paper course, but the cost is prohibitive, even if there's a wider market for which they can be used. Now, here's the thing, Jenny. I thought long and hard about the pricing of this particular product, and the reason why I decided to go for a higher price is, one, literally, I'm going to lose customers as a result of this. Because if you think about it, I'm giving you the skills to completely go away and create your own set of papers. You never have to buy a piece of paper from me again. Secondly, I'm providing you with a skill that's going to revolutionize your business, whether you sell digital papers or not, or whether you just use them for your own book covers, or you go and just do one POD product. I'm giving you a skill that you can create a completely unique product that no one else will ever have. And you can also take whatever you create and sell them as commercial use. So the money-making opportunities that you will get out of this, if you apply it, can be very good. And I know from my own personal experience that by creating my own papers and selling them for commercial use has made me a lot of money. So to give you an example, my one Etsy store sells a paper pack for $19 with commercial use, and they sell. That's on Etsy. You know, so $19 is nothing to sniff at. And I mean, it's a fair piece of price for just 25 papers, but they sell. So that's just something that you have to think about. I hope that's answered your question, Jenny. It was an unusual move for me because normally I don't price them that high, but I was just giving it a lot of thought. We, as a general industry, and Sue and I have had this conversation, we tend to undervalue our skills. And I'm talking about all of you. You undervalue what you're producing for the market. And at some point, you're going to have to make a decision and say, do I want to be one of the run of the mill kind of guys that are selling my product for $1? Or do I want to build a high quality name for myself? That's up to you.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question, Jenny?
Okay. And then there was a question from Sky. I'm not sure if we covered that one before I lose it here. How can you use other commercial use items with limits to make PLR or commercial use papers?
Okay, so that's what I discussed just now about taking other elements of other people's commercial use stuff and embedding it. As long as they say you can use it for commercial use, and generally speaking, most commercial use items say you can use it for commercial use as long as you don't sell the original source file and that it's embedded or flattened as a JPEG in a finished product. So, Sky, I think that would answer your question. Okay, Jenny says yes, she answers the question. So Denise says, how long would it take you to go through the course and come out with a marketable piece of product? Denise, that's up to you. You could spend a weekend and you could do it. Honestly, you could do it in a weekend. It just depends on how much time you prepare to do it. I'm saying that even after probably video 3, you could probably come up with a really nice piece of paper and you know, and just change the base colors, and you could have a set of papers that you could sell. So it's saying how long is a piece of string. Literally, it depends on you.
Okay.
Okay, so let's Sky, I'll come back to your PLR aspect. How do you suggest printing these beautiful colors? I printed the color design on an inkjet and it looked very dull. Okay, so here, Melody, what you need to do is if you're going to be printing on physical paper, you need to change the color mode from RGB to CMYK. If it's digital, RGB is fine, but if you're going to go to print, then you need to change it to CMYK. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. Okay, so Sky says PLR aspect of question. Let me just go back to Sky's question. Okay, so Sky, when you create, so let's say those pieces of paper that I created in the training were created with a combination of my own stuff and my own textures and some other textures and then some graphics from some commercial use products. Because I've created them as a flattened JPEG and I've mixed and matched it to such an extent that it's actually not recognizable as somebody else's product, I can sell it with PLR commercial use. I've covered myself as far as the copyright is concerned. I've not taken somebody else's piece of paper. Let's say you buy a patent piece of paper and all you do is throw a texture on it. You can't do that as a PLR commercial use. But you can certainly take a combination of stuff that you've done mostly on your own or selected from different places, flatten that into a JPEG, and then sell it as PLR. Does that answer the question?
And that's what I found too, is some of the commercial use that I have, they'll tell you that you can use it in something that you're going to resell, like 50%, 40%. They'll give you some kind of proportions that, you know, you can use this 40% of the time as long as 60% is from somewhere else or your own original work. So, you know, you have to watch those, everyone's licenses too.
Yeah. Okay, so Gail says, is all the training videos I'm hard of hearing? So Gail, no, there isn't anything in writing. And the reason why, because this is such a visual thing. You know, it's very difficult for me to try and type what you're supposed to be doing when watching the videos. What I can do is, and I thought we'd done it already, is activate the CC captions on the YouTube video. which might help you. So I'll make sure that that gets done. Moni, why don't you make a note to activate CC capture for the video, please? Okay, so we'll get that done for you, Gail, and then you'll be able to read the captions. Is that okay?
And Melody was asked about the type of paper for printing. Is there a certain type that you recommend?
Well, yeah, so, you know, you could print on standard printer copy paper, but it's not very nice. So
Yeah.
I would suggest a minimum of 150 GSM. It's slightly harder than paper. It's not quite as hard as cardstock, but here's a very simple solution. Because cardstock's so readily available, just go buy a pack of cardstock in the shop, and that's plenty.
Okay.
That should be more than enough. Okay. So, other Diana. Oh, there's another Diana on. So
Yes.
we've got confused.
Oh, yes.
Diana says, if you produce paper for sale on Etsy, do you make papers in CMYK from the start? So I haven't done that yet in terms of selling physical papers. We're only starting the process now. And my answer is going to be yes, because I have to send them to my printer in CMYK, because they can't deal with the RGB color. You know, they need it in CMYK color. So any designs I do, I would be doing that way. So here's an interesting thing. When we're marketing something as printable for the end user, I've been selling my printables in RGB. I haven't been doing them as CMYK, and I haven't had any issues. I think it's only really when you're going to go to professional printers that you'd go for the CMYK. Yeah, I would suggest, if you're going to be selling digital papers, keep it at RGB. But if you're going to go physically printing them at a professional printer, then you could switch.
Because everybody's home printer is different too. I find that some are going to have a high quality printer, some are lower quality. So there's so many variables that it's going to be hard to come out with like a certain level that's going to print perfectly for everybody, and even the colors change.
Correct, yes. And it does vary printer to printer.
Yes.
You know, I might do something on my laser color here that looks completely different to an inkjet color, just depending on it. Okay, so Sky, what do you mean the resources you provide?
I'm not sure if maybe she means the extra bonuses that you include, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know what she's referring to. Oh, the bonuses. Okay.
Okay.
So all of the bonuses, and I have to refresh my memory, there are a couple of paper packs, there's a whole lot of textures in there. The bottom line, I have given you all of those bonuses with full commercial use, which means you can go in and you can throw textures on top of my paper packs and resell them with commercial use. Okay. You can change the coloring if you do the option of recoloring. You can't edit them individually because they're not PSD files, they're JPEG files, but you can recolor them. You can throw textures on top, you can combine them and change the overlays on them, pretty much do what you like with them. So you've got full commercial use on that. Does that answer your question, Sky?
Yeah, and just by following your training with those bonus packs, I mean, you're going to come up with so many packs already without even just starting going to find your own images and stuff to use. So that's a great start for to get these going for you.
Yes, Sky, I do sell them as JPEG and not PNG because there's no transparency in them. You know, there's no point in selling it as a PNG file because it makes them a lot bigger. So I just sell them as JPEG at a high resolution. And I also save them at quite a high compression factor in Photoshop. So Diana says, with PLR packs that say no copyright, but if you change the product substantially, does that not make it your own? And you could add copyright. I'm not sure I understand that question, Di.
I think she's saying if we create a new paper and it's got, like you said, so many different pieces in there that it's totally unique, can we attach our copyright to it? Or do you worry about copyright? I mean,
No, because it's so different. And you know,
Yeah.
if you're going to be selling it for personal use, then yes, you have a copyright notice in your product that you're saying you could only use this as commercial use. If I mean for personal use, if you're selling it as commercial use, you're giving away the copyright anyway. You know, because you're not claiming, because you're letting somebody
Yes,
else use it.
exactly. Yeah. And I was going to ask this too. What do you mean by compression in Photoshop? I haven't heard of that one.
So you know when you go file save as JPEG,
Yeah.
it asks you for a number between 0 and 12.
Okay.
Okay. I normally make mine about 10 because then it although it's still saving at 300 dpi, if you save at 10 versus 8, the file size is much bigger and it retains more of the integrity.
Okay. Yeah. I think mine almost does default to 10 all the time. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Okay.
12 is a bit big. If you're going to do POD products that are quite large, like towels or t-shirts, I would save it at 12 because then you get more
Yeah.
detail in the pixelation in terms of the product itself.
And one more thing, when yeah, in your course, when you're showing how to do a thing without giving things away, like your master file, once you've created a new pack, do you go back and delete everything that you've used, or you just like save on, you just keep everything in that one big file?
I keep everything in the one big file because there's so much that you can do and mix and match. I mean, obviously, when I send the file to my VA, it might be a bit cumbersome.
Yeah.
So what I tend to do is I will put together a PSD file with a couple of ideas that I have, like the textures I like, some of the stamps I like, some of the brushes that I like, all that sort of thing. And then the color swatches, the base colors, and then send that to her and let her play around with it. Because otherwise, and then the next time I send her one, I'll give her something different. Because I've noticed now I've sent her 2 color swatches, and the papers that are coming back look great, 2 different swatches, but they look the same
Yeah.
because she's using the same textures and that over and over again. So, yeah, um, depending on how big your file is, I would probably create a new one for each paperback if you're handing it over to a VA. It's different if you're doing
Yeah.
it yourself.
Okay, no, that makes sense. And I saw like I got this paper today. It's like textures and whatever, but it's come with a FX style. Like, is that something that you can upload into Photoshop? I've never even seen it before. I was trying to create like a glitter paper, and it had this FX style that supposedly you could upload, but I have never even seen that before.
Oh, yeah, you know, something that I didn't even cover in the training courses, styles. You can do some real, you know, thank you, Sue. I need to add a new video to that. Good grief, stop it, you're giving me work. So here's the thing, you can do some really nice stuff with styles, like create the glitter paper, or you can create a metallic look. Um, I will definitely add a video on that. Okay, thank you
Okay.
for reminding. I didn't even cover it really, because I use styles a lot for text and for creating individual PNG elements and things like that. But you know, yeah, that's a very good idea. I'll cover some styles.
Okay,
Because you can
perfect.
get a lot of styles. You can go buy a lot of commercial use styles that instantly create patterns and papers and textures for you with just by applying the style. So let's say you
Yeah.
take a color, you take a texture, you've got a pattern, and you merge them and you create that as a style. You could apply that to every single piece of paper after that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
that's a very powerful tool.
Okay. And then Sky's asking about the files. Do you provide the PSDs, or you just strictly
You mean in the
JPEGs?
as the bonuses? No, I've only provided them all as JPEGs. Because the idea is for you not to use the same sort of stuff I'm using. Is the idea is for you to go and find your own and create your own
Yeah.
using the different tools so that you don't end up with product that looks like mine. Does that answer your question, Sky? It's got some funny icons.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. It's hard to see that one. Yes, okay, perfect. And then now, like I haven't gone through everything yet, I'm going through it. But again, like with the stars, there's the brushes. Like I have a lot of brushes that are flowers in this, but how, like, do you provide a bit more training on how to use the brushes? Because I always seem to get, like, I'm trying to stamp them or it doesn't go right. I'm not quite sure. Like, do you cover that at all in the training or not?
I do to a certain extent, but I mean, I go through brushes, and I think with the brushes thing, you know, you've got an option when you push the brush down, it gives you one, or it does what they call a scatter, you know, and it puts, let's say, the flower all over the page. But those are settings that you can adjust within the actual thing. Okay. There are so many millions of different types of brushes out there. I cover a lot of watercolor splashes and a few odd sort of like handwriting brushes where I would only push it down once. I'd click my mouse once so that it only comes up once, kind of thing, because you maybe don't want to have handwriting streaking across the page. Yeah. But yes, I do cover it yeah. I'm just trying to think if there was anything else I missed in there. No. So yes, it's the long answer to the question.
Perfect. Okay. So I think we've covered them all, unless anyone's got any more. Okay, so if we have any other questions, even if it's any like general question.
Hard to learn. Okay, I don't know, to be perfectly honest, I haven't actually even touched it. I saw Moni doing some really interesting things with it yesterday, which Photoshop couldn't do. So I am of a mind to go and learn it, but I think it's like anything, it takes a bit of time. And I know that Affinity has got some really good training videos in terms of the Affinity Designer. Our Affinity Ease course only covers Affinity Publisher. And I think Moni needs to create a new course on Affinity Designer. I've got to look.
Yeah. Many different sections that you can go through on Affinity Design, because you've got the quick edits and then you've got like the pixel edits, and it's amazing what you can do with it, but it's a lot, like a lot.
Yeah.
So Gail, I think you could probably learn the basics. Simone has put in video. We have put in videos in the training area that cover when I do something in Photoshop, how you do it in Affinity. So I don't think you'll battle too much with that.
And if you don't have design, you can publish it because it has the same.
It does it?
Yeah.
Okay, Moni says that's very interesting. She says the Finisher Publisher's got the same functionality as the Affinity Designer. That I didn't know.
You've got the overlay, you've got the color swatches, you've got the color overlays, all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Sky says is looking at unique roles. So yes, I do. Sky, apart from covering the various products, I also cover different places to sell your product. And we're not just talking places like Etsy or Creative Fabrica. I go into a few different options of what you could do and sell, where you can sell your products. Hope that helps.
Yeah, I mean, and going back to Affinity, I mean, I've looked at it too, and it's the price point is wonderful compared to Photoshop as well. And I believe, I don't know if they still did, but they did have a 50% off sale. Whether it's still there or not, I'm not sure. You'd have to go have a look at their website.
No, it is, because I actually bought it this morning as a birthday present for someone, so it is still there.
Oh, yeah. Perfect, yeah. Okay.
Anything else?
Anymore. What was my life?
So any more questions, guys? Catherine.
Oh.
Oh, Catherine was going to talk.
Yeah. Gail says she's going to go check out Affinity afterwards. Anyway. Okay.
Okay, Sue, I don't know if you've got any more questions.
Well, no, the ones that I had emailed and asked me, we've gone over. And then I'm going to post my link to Di's course if you're interested in it in the chat box there. And I've added a bonus. Now, how do you say this Is it ephemera? How do you pronounce that?
I have no idea, but I think it's pronounced ephemera. So yeah, that is a really cool bonus. I mean, Sue sent it to me, and I'm so excited because it's a lot of the stuff that I was doing in some of my other sites, and those are really cool templates, very cool. And the best part is you can actually use PowerPoint for them, not even Photoshop.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, it's basically like fill in the shapes with your new digital papers, and you've got envelopes, pockets, tags, labels. So you can do the vintage style, you could do kids styles. You know, again, again, once you have those templates, you know, you don't need to buy any other tags and stuff because you can go in there and create an unlimited supply of your own. So, you know, your course and that template pack is like, they go together very, very well.
Yeah, and so one of the things that I talk about in the additional products to create is that type of ephemera, using the digital papers you've created and then simply just using clipping masks in Photoshop to create the new product. But you can obviously also do it with PowerPoint and the pages that you've created in her what do they call them? Ephemera
Packs. Yeah, because they sell like crazy on Etsy for sure.
Oh no, they do. Yeah, they're a huge success. Do PS Docs account? So yes, PSD files do open up in Affinity. They do. We've tested that. And vice versa, by the way, because if you send them back as a PSD file, then Photoshop will open them. Don't save them as an Affinity file, save them as a PSD.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. Unless anyone else has got any more questions.
Sue, anything else from your part? I can't think of anything else. I'm just trying to think of some of the questions I got asked.
No, I mean, going back to the Etsy thing and about the marketing, like I've been doing it because I've started a new store too, and I really want to get it going. And I've been doing some research, you know, and I found some Etsy groups to go in, and I've just been like reading the comments, and people were saying, you know, again, if you put the time and effort into it, you're going to get your products to sell. And a few people, again, if you're worried about too much competition, some of these ladies are in these high competition markets, and they're selling like hundreds of products. So, you know, you don't want to worry about competition, but again, it's a mindset thing that, you know, if you're going to do the Etsy store, let's go in, start it properly and put the time and effort into it, and then learn the SEO, which is something that I have to learn. I have to go and learn is E-rank, I think it is. Like I've been trying to find some videos about how to use that properly and to get the SEO, because from everything I read, you know, the big thing is with Etsy these days is the SEO factor too.
And the long tail keywords, which becomes a critical factor, because people don't type keywords in a way that you would think. They actually ask a question, you know, that kind of thing.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, the competition's in anywhere, wherever you sell. You know, if you're selling through Etsy or Creative Market or Creative Fabrica or Zazzle or wherever, there's always competition. And it comes down to a combination of, one, you need to have some good product. Two, you need to do your search engine optimization. And three, you need to do your promotion, be it free or paid, through social media and all of that. And it takes a bit of time and it takes a bit of work. But it is worth it if you commit yourself to it.
Exactly.
Oh, can I give an example of a long-tailed keyword? So a long-tailed keyword is, I've got to wrap my head around this. I can only think of it in terms of planners. So digital planner for woman aged 50 is a long tail keyword, as an example, not just digital planner. And if you do the research, you'll find that digital planner, the long tail keywords tend to do better because people are actually looking for something specific. And then what happens is they'll mention the person they're targeting, the age, you know, that kind of thing. So when they're looking for birthday cards, they say birthday party for a boy age 2, kind of thing. So it's like a phrase. Yes, it's exactly that. It's a phrase. Kate's asking you a question, Sue.
Yeah, yes, the ephemera templates will be available in the store once this promotion is done. And Arise guy's asking about the reasonable price point of papers. How do you determine what to sell them for?
Okay, so again, I go into pricing, but it becomes a subjective answer. If you're selling for personal use, you're obviously going to sell it at a much lower price. There are people out there selling digital papers for $1, which for me doesn't make sense. It has sense if you've got a lot of product. If you're going to do low price, you need a lot of product. The average price range I see sort of is between $3 and $6 for a pack of 10 to 20 papers. My commercial use papers I sell for between $19 and $29. Okay, so that's how I'm pricing the commercial use stuff. The personal use stuff on my other store, I've been playing around between $3 and $6. I see some ladies selling 5 pages for $5.69. So literally you're paying $1 a page, and she's doing exceptionally well. So again, it boils down to what is your market prepared to pay? And I think also the big thing, and I do mention this in the pricing video, is it's far easier to start high and bring your price down than it is to go from low to high.
Yeah. And do you, in your Etsy store, do you use it, like, do you run a lot of sales and coupons, or you haven't got to that point yet?
I do every now and then just to test it as part of the case study. And when I do, my sales definitely increase.
Okay, that's good to know.
But I don't do it too often because, yeah, you don't want people to getting too used to paying a low price.
Exactly, because I see some sellers that do this $2 Tuesday or $2 Friday thing. So, you know, if people know you do that, they're going to wait till you put everything down to $2 and then buy it at that price point.
Yeah. So Sky says you're focusing on teaching us for commercial use. No, I'm doing both, Sky, both personal use and commercial use. I thought it was important to cover both because, you know, there's a huge market out there for personal use. And then there's a smaller market out there for commercial use, but you can make more money on commercial use because you can charge more.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yes, this is being recorded, and I will post the recording once it's downloaded, uploaded. It'll take a little while, but it will be available hopefully later on this afternoon for you. And then Donna's asking about the sales tax on the products. I mean,
okay, that's an issue that you guys have to handle.
Yeah.
And I think it's sites like Etsy and all of the stores that you sell on, they actually handle the sales tax completely.
Yeah, I know when I set, because I'm in Canada, so when I set up my Etsy store, I had to go put in my GST number and all that stuff. And now they do that for you. If you were to use your own website or WooCommerce, I believe you have to set up either in WooCommerce or inside PayPal. Like but that's something, again, it's that varies so differently for everybody that, you know, there's no one answer for that question.
Sky, were you happy with the answer that I gave you? Yes,
yeah, let's see if we've got any. You've got a couple more minutes if there's another question or not, and if not, we'll start to wrap it up here.
I mean, you can ask me anything. It doesn't have to be about the training course. It could be about anything in business or whatever. I mean, I'm sure you're okay with that, Heuser.
Or anything. It was the course first, and then anything else, and any other question. If anybody, you know, has some other questions, we can talk about those too.
No,
I guess not. Okay. Well, I really want to thank you, Di, for coming on the call. It was really great. I'm sure we got a lot of value out of the course, out of the call. And, you know, if people are interested, they can go back and look at your course and see if, you know, if they want to go into it. And like you said, once you've got that course, you can create those papers. You never have to buy another paper. You know, you can cancel your Creative Fabrica subscription if you want to eventually, because you can do it all yourself.
Yeah, very much so. So Gail says, can a newbie like me do this? Yes, Gail, you can. You follow those videos, I promise you'll have a piece of paper at the end of the day that you'll really love.
Yeah. Well, I don't.
When do you decide? Hmm?
I was going to say.
Sorry, Sue, I'll interrupt you.
Yeah, I was just going to say to Gail, like, I'm not a Photoshop expert. I've asked lots of little questions along the way, and I have managed to create my papers and everything else. So, and it's something, again, once you do it over and over again, you know, you're going to get the hang of it. So it's not as hard as it looks in Photoshop.
When do you decide to go downloadable versus printed product? Okay, my suggestion is start with downloadable. It's easier. You know, there's no paperwork, there's no physical cost involved, nothing like that. It's the quickest and easiest way to get yourself selling online. We've only now made the decision, and it's a big process to get quotes from the printers in the UK and all that sort of thing. So my suggestion is start off with downloadable, and then once it's up and running, and maybe you look at a different market and things like that. Is Affinity or Photoshop better? You know what? I actually think they're one and the same. They both give you the functionality that you need. I wouldn't worry too much about that.
And then
Denise,
Denise was asking about advice. What advice would you give to new sellers getting into the market? My advice is, like we were just talking about, to decide that you're going to do this and focus on it, and, you know, really put the time and effort into everything to make it work, because, you know, we all had to start somewhere. And I found with my own journal business, once I really said, this is what I'm going to do, I'm not going to mess around with other stuff, just focus on this, it took off. And, you know, within 12 months, I mean, I can't believe the difference in my business, how much it grew in 12 months, just because I put the time and effort into it.
And made the decision to get it done, regardless of what it took.
Exactly.
So I think there's one is that mental state of mind about, even if you work a full-time job, if you say to yourself, okay, you know what, I'm going to do this. If I've got an hour a day, I'm going to use that hour in a day, and you'll be surprised at how much you can get done in an hour. And the second thing, and I think would really be important, is don't try and sell to everybody.
Yeah.
Pick a niche, pick a market. Take 65-year-old women who live in Arkansas as a silly example. I mean, I'm exaggerating. But the smaller and tighter the niche, the more focused you'll be on providing exactly what it is that they want.
Yeah.
Okay. Because there are a lot of people that buy digital papers, and there are a lot of people that buy other products. I mean, you could sell coffee mugs that are just pretty papers for a specific niche market. There's just a million ways to do it, but I would suggest pick a niche market and don't try to sell to everyone, because you can't.
Yeah.
That answer your question, Denise? Anything else, sir?
Good. Now that you've mentioned about, you know, like mugs and t-shirts, so now in your Etsy store, would you just focus, would you have one store for digital products, or would you recommend, like, if I wanted to do mugs, would that be a whole different store? You wouldn't like mix and match the two together?
Well, you see, now it depends, because now if we take a look at my Legacy for Life Planners site, I'm not going to sell mugs on that Etsy store. It wouldn't make any sense. But I have another Etsy store called the Grubby Paw Prints, which is completely focused on one niche only, dog lovers. So now in that niche, I can sell cushion covers, I can sell coffee mugs, I can sell planners, I can sell t-shirts. In that particular niche, because it's a more sort of niche around a particular interest, it's much easier to sell everything.
Yeah.
You know? Whereas in my PLR planner store, that is just a planner and journal site. So again, it depends on the niche that you're targeting.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Can I send you my store URLs? Yes, I will. I'll get you to send them to you, except my secret one.
Yeah.
Because we're keeping that secret so that we can do a proper case study, and my results are on scoop by everybody going to visit it.
And when does this offer close? Is it the 12th, Di? The pricing
will
change?
It is the 12th, and then it goes up to the regular price, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so you still got, what are we today, 8th? You still got 4 more days to decide if this is what you want to do and make that investment in yourself. Oh, I can actually just share. Let me just share my bonus for you.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Okay, let me just share my screen here. Let me know if it's loaded. Can you see that now?
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah, so this is the journal pocket templates. We've done them on the 12 by 12 paper size, and it's pretty much, oops, where did everything go? I know. Okay, here we go. So you've got this like pretty pedal envelope. You can just come in here with your own designs and change everything out. This is an open back journal pocket. So it's all different kinds of pockets that we've created, and we've just put in the colors just for, examples, and then you can come in. We've grouped a lot of it for now, so you pretty much come in, ungroup it, and then change the colors and the styles with your own digital papers. And then, you've got a new product that's ready to go as well. And then we have this pack. Did the screen change now?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, this one is like frames. So you've got some full page frames that you can either have, your different designs in here. And then we've got ones like this. So you could use your digital papers to create the nice frames. So these are just the templates again with the different frames. And then we've got some here, and all these are, we can ungroup everything, and the elements are there that you can customize. The same as these ones here, you can move the corners, resize them, recolor them as well. And then we've got some tags here, some labels, and these are, and these all go into those ephemera packs, and mix and match them up, and people just love them. So again, you could just click on the tag, just change out the design, the colors, the textures, and then you can create, an unlimited supply as well. So you get these as well. This is really pretty up here.
I don't think your screen's moving. I'm still sitting on the gusset envelope.
Oh, okay. Hang on a sec. Let me stop that share again. So we changed to something different now?
Okay, there we can see. Yeah, I can see that now. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the frames pack. So you get frames, different sizes. Then we get the shapes. And again, you can come in and just edit all of this and change the colors. So some different frames there. So there's 15 layouts in this pack. And then you get 13 of the envelopes and tags. So we've created all these, and these ones, some of these are just picture formats, but you can come in here and just change the colors to whatever you want inside of PowerPoint. Then you've got the tags here, so you can come in and create unlimited tags, different colors, different textures. So, none of them will be the same. And then there's a different layout of the tags as well. We've got more like a ticket type of tag for you there. And then there's some different frame features. And again, each of these elements are individual, so you can come and recolor them, add a texture behind here, add your papers behind the pages. It's just, whatever you feel like doing with them. And there's another one that we have there for you. And then you've got this one here again. You can put your digital paper behind it. You can add other elements on top. So it'd be an easy way just to create, your own packs. Once you've got your papers created, it's just mix and match, change things up, and you've got an unlimited supply of different items as well. Okay.
Awesome. That looks really cool, Sue.
Yeah. No, they turned out really well. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very pleased. I mean, I think they're awesome. So Sky says she's never heard of ephemera. Is that just digital? No, it's both. So let me give you an example, Sky. I don't know if you guys can see this. This is a heart that I have cut out using my Cameo cutter on a piece of cardstock. So this is about a 200 gram thing. And what I would do is create, and this is just an example of a junk journal, which I don't know if you can see. It's now taking physical papers and mixing and matching it and creating something that looks like that. Just trying to make sure that you can all see it. So all these bits and pieces in here, like this little envelope and that little tag there and that one there and this little heart, are classified as ephemera. Okay. And you could do digital, because some people will actually do digital junk journals and then print out the finished journal, and then, or they will cut out the papers and create something like that themselves. Okay. And here's another example. So this is paper that I bought, where what you can see, this is what I'm hoping to do for myself and sell, is physically create these papers that people can then, that's an example, let me show you that thing. So there's ephemera, it's cards and shapes that people will cut out on a fairly thick paper. I think this is about a 200 gram paper, GSM paper, that they can then use to, and people also use this sort of stuff for making cards, really pretty cards.
Yeah, and it's been around a long time, and I've seen myself, again, there is a switch to people doing this digitally too, and then they'll create them and then they'll go and share them with family members digitally instead of having to print everything off as well.
Correct, yes. So there's a market for both. There's no doubt in my mind. I mean, it's a lot of fun also to do. So here's another idea. What we're trying to do is we're putting together a similar concept as a bullet journal, but instead of doing it for adults with all the vintagey kind of stuff, is we're creating these packs for kids. So they cut them out and they put together their own little journals with pretty colored papers and things like that. I mean, the adult females prefer the sort of more vintagey look like this, but there's nothing stopping you taking the junk journal concept with all the ephemera and getting the kids to cut it out. So one, it's an activity for kids, so it's a good practice. And secondly, they end up with a little journal of their own. So there's a million ways you could use the idea.
Well, that's it. And people, especially now with so many people homeschooling too, that would be a perfect thing to put into the homeschool activities for the kids as well. I mean, that's a great idea. So we're just going to go back through a couple of questions. Am I going to sell? Yes, I will be selling the bonus on the store. I'm not sure of the price point now, but it's going to be around the $47 mark, because like I said, once you have those templates, you do not need to buy any more tags, labels, or anything else. So that will be available later on. I'm not putting it in the store right away, but it will be available probably the end of March or beginning of April into the store. And Skies, where is the key market to sell this? I mean, I see most of this being sold on Etsy. Do you see other places as well, or?
I've seen a lot of people selling junk journals on all of the sites, so not only papers, junk journals, everything, pretty much any site. And I'm not going to give away the one key place that I do mention in the training, because that is part of the training. But there is a site that will take a lot of the stuff that you've created that you didn't, sites.
Yeah.
That will take the stuff that you create. Denise says, any tips on organizing all the digital elements collected? Oh, Denise, no. No.
That's a problem we all have.
It is my biggest nightmare. What I have managed to do now is I've taken the commercial use resources that I use on a regular basis, and I've classified them into textures, patterns, stamps, all that sort of thing, and then move them into that. But that's about the extent of it. When it comes to the graphics packages that I bought off Creative Market or something like that, no. It's a case of, I remember, I think I had a pack that looked like that, and I'll spend an hour looking for it. But yeah, my only suggestion is that when you start to create a paper pattern pack, it's really important to make notes of what the swatches that you're going to be using. And secondly, if you do use the graphics pack, write it down, because I promise you'll forget, and then you're going to not remember where you found those particular graphics.
Yeah. I mean, I pretty much download mine like I said, in one graphics for my use for my own projects, and then by store where I got them from. So this store has its own folder, and then within there, like you said, I have patterns, brushes, textures, all that kind of thing. But again, you've got something, and then you can't remember, is it a texture, was it a pattern, was it an overlay, and you have to go find it. So it can be hard to find.
If somebody could come up with a piece of software, the biggest problem is that the guys who are selling the stuff are not consistent in the way that they name their folders and they name their files. And it's one thing that I do cover in my training is how the heck do you rename your files and folders so that it actually makes sense for somebody to buy them. And I think that's a key element. But if somebody could come up with software that could look at the image and say, okay, you're a texture or you're a template, and do it automatically for us, they'd make a million. They'd make a fortune.
Yeah, that would be good. Yes, I'm sure. Yeah, the replay will be up, like I said, this afternoon, and then I'll post it. I'll email it out and I'll post it in the Facebook groups as well.
So Sky says, "Am I in Johannesburg? Where am I? Sorry, I'm in Johannesburg in South Africa, Sky. And do I name my layers? Yes, I do. And I also group them depending on, so when I'm creating the PSD files, let's say I've got a whole lot of textures, I will name the textures, normally nothing more than 1, 2, 3, and 4, so that I know that they're different. But I will also group all the textures in one group in Photoshop, and then all the patterns and then the brushes, etc.
Okay. Yeah, does Creative Market have a membership? Yeah.
I don't know if they do, and I'll tell you why. Creative Market is expensive, and that was the point that I was making. I think it's a good thing that they're expensive, because one of the things that I cover in the training is that with everybody buying from Creative Fabrica, we're all ending up with the same looking products. So if you're going to go to Creative Market, you're going to get products that not everybody is buying, especially if you get the commercial use license. And so you're at a bit of an advantage as far as others are concerned. But if you can't afford it, then, stick with Creative Marketer and then just adapt the stuff so it looks completely different. So a spreadsheet is vital. Yes, Di, it is.
Yeah.
We run it on a project plan. That's classy. She used to live in Pretoria. That's so cool.
Oh. Nice. Yeah, and I was going to say too, as part of my bonus too, what I've started doing is I'm making like a little tip sheet for Photoshop. So as I go through every video, I'm just making little notes and a couple of little suggestions of things that I found helpful. And once I get that completed, that will also be added to your bonus as well. Just some, basic things, even like how to upload a brush, and just some things that I found helpful. Because, like I said, I've been using Photoshop for a good year or so, but I wouldn't say I'm, great at it either. It's something, again, you have to do on a regular basis. So.
Well, what I've been doing with my Photoshop skills is I've made a commitment now, because, again, like you get so used to doing a certain way, things a certain way. And I made a deliberate effort that I'm going to start watching YouTube videos on Photoshop, because there's some stuff that you can do in there that is mind-blowing.
Exactly.
So that's just an aside. It's about continually learning.
Yeah, it is, and making the time to do it, because that's what I said, I want to, because I want to get my new store going too, and it's just telling yourself you're going to make that time to just get the products up, learn the skills. And like I said, once you, and we all know that once you've done it enough times, it's second nature. You don't even have to worry about it, but you got to make that start somewhere. And, and don't even think about, oh my God, Photoshop's, don't go looking at everything, because that can be a turn off. Just learn the functions that you need to create the digital papers first, and then you could always venture off into other things after you've got those skills down pat.
And I think, Sue, just in sort of summarizing, I mean, if you're going to spend the money on the course, please don't waste it. Just get on and do it. Create the papers, start selling them. I think it's very difficult to differentiate yourself in a market where there's so many people trying to do a similar thing. And by giving yourself the skill, not only are you going to get self-confidence, because you're going to come up with some really pretty stuff. And that's going to build your self-confidence, and then it's going to help you start selling. And I just think it's a win-win situation when you start creating stuff for yourself that nobody else has got.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you've got to have that mindset that, you know, if you're going to come in and buy it, then you're going to put it to use. Make sure you put it, you know, allocate that time, even like you said, even if it's only an hour a day, just come in and learn it bit by bit. And, you know, it's not going to even take that long to go through everything, because it is nice, you know, short chunks of video, which is, I find really helpful, because you can go back and watch it again, you know, lots of times as well. Okay, well, we've gone over time, which is fine. So I don't see any more questions. Yeah, unless we have any last ones, then we'll start to wrap it up here. But again, I want to thank, yeah.
Okay. No, I don't think there's any more.
No. So anyway, Di, thank you so much for joining me on this call today. It has been wonderful to do. We have to do it again. That's for sure. It's been lots of fun.
No, we always have such fun on these calls.
And thank you to everybody else for joining us as well. And if you have any other questions, you can reach out to Di or myself afterwards in the Facebook groups, email, however you want to get hold of us. Yep, so pretty much that's it then. Thank you so much for coming, and I will get the recording out as soon as I can.